murder had to happen for the plan to be executed.
Keep your eyes peeled for any haters coming this way.
Greed determines the next move.
I need them good peanuts, man. I need them cashews.
He was a serial killer and it didn't bother him.
I'ma line that shit to perfect, bro.
I think he liked to kill people.
He had a smile that could light up this room.
The smile of a man taken too soon.
Now that Melvin's not here, it's like we're missing a part of ourselves.
32-year-old Melvin Moore was an armored truck courier servicing a drive-up ATM at this Chase Bank on Airline Road on March 18th when he was ambushed.
I mean, somebody shot him in hopes of getting the money that they were bringing to the actual ATM.
Houston police say there were 4 men involved driving 2 cars. Surveillance cameras captured this image of one vehicle, a newer model Nissan Sentra or Altima.
We believe that he was able to return fire, striking one of the suspects, more than likely in the upper left arm.
All the information we had and the surveillance footage at that time was that the shot that ultimately killed the poor courier was taken from a distance.
The guard, Melvin Moore was his name, he shot his entire magazine back at the suspect before he was eventually died.
You're trying to figure out where the shot is coming from, and you're not necessarily seeing the pickup vehicle taking that shot. So you have to figure out where this shot could have come from. So what you see is the courier doing his normal duties, which is replenishing an ATM. It's a standalone ATM. It's offset from the actual physical bank itself. And as he's going there, he drops. A vehicle comes into play. There's a man that gets out of the vehicle. And sure enough, the courier engages the man, and then you see or you hear another shot, and then that vehicle drive off.
When we took a step back from that and started looking at other surveillance and talking to witnesses, first off, witnesses reported like a really large or really loud gunshot. I think one of the witnesses said it sounded like a semi-truck lost its entire load, right? So we're thinking maybe some type of high caliber weapon. And then as we took that surveillance back, we identified a vehicle. It was a gray van. And it was parked in a car wash across the street. And one of those car washes that, like a self-service car wash that you can pull in. We observed it sit there for hours. Nobody ever got in, nobody ever got out. And then right as the other events were unfolding is when it drove off.
When it takes off, it doesn't take off like we would typically see in our robbery cases. It just drives off. There's no urgency, just drives off at a normal rate of speed, like nothing's occurring around it. And that to us was very suspicious. And when you look at the distance, you're talking about, a major thoroughfare within the city of Houston. You're talking about 2 lanes of traffic on either side split with a median at approximately 2 o'clock in the afternoon with traffic and everything like that. And that's not typical what we come across in our day-to-day.
You've got a van, you've got a truck. Did you have much else to go on after that first robbery?
We had some, like tip source type information. There was a female that was identified that was potentially involved. So we did the logical steps and followed up on that, but it didn't really get us anywhere at all.
So no, I guess the surveillance video, no license plates on the cars that you saw or anything?
As soon as the truck comes into focus, we lose surveillance. As soon as the gray van, we lose surveillance. So
the van actually pulled, so the armored truck pulled away during the gunshots, the actual truck, and those have cameras all over them, and it pulls away, and you're right about to get the license plate of the van, and then the camera shuts off. We didn't find the van, but we found
The
pickup vehicle. So the vehicle that the individual got out of, and then after they were shot, got back into, it was a black sedan, and we were able to find it. Unfortunately, it was burnt up. I think even though the information we had hadn't really got us that far, it was good enough information that we felt like, hey, this is an organized crew that we're dealing with. And so I think we all knew that it was a matter of time, potentially, before it happens again or we get a break.
At the Wells Fargo Bank, where 25-year-old David Guzman lost his life Monday, another Brinks crew showed up, finishing the job he started, this time with 3 guards instead of 2. The extra security a precaution as investigators hunt for the person they say shot Guzman from a distance as he refilled the ATM here and robbed him.
I went out there to the scene and I literally thought it was deja vu. I was looking at a street and I remember the aerial shot from Airline, and basically if I took Hollister and put it on top of Airline, I was looking at the same thing. I went over to Homicide and told them, hey, I think we have a serial at this point, and the shot's going to be from a distance, and if there are rounds to collect, it's going to be from across the street. We knew that this wasn't our normal robbery crew. This was somebody that was targeting, hunting citizens of Houston, good, hardworking people, for money.
I think in most times the intent is to rob somebody for money. In this case, they were preceding that robbery with a murder, right? And intentionally planning that, right?
The difference was the murder was part of the plan, not a reaction to somebody fighting back.
The murder had to happen for the plan to be executed in this case.
You had a person that looked at this like a full-time job, that would come out, hold a position for hours on end to see not only when things arrive and leave, but also the standard operating procedures that were occurring so that they could ultimately devise a plan to take this money. Surveillance, though, did come, and it was quite informative. Similar to March, we had a vehicle that as soon as the shots go out, it slowly leaves the area, which is just not common.
What we found was hours preceding the robbery and murder, there was a white SUV. It was a Toyota 4Runner, which is a pretty distinct look. It pulls up to the corner parking lot right across from the ATM, stays there for a couple hours. Nobody ever gets in, nobody ever gets out, and then it leaves after the guard is murdered and the robbery occurs. We were able to even grab more surveillance video, and we found that same vehicle do the same thing multiple times.
Did it yield anything significant for you?
Initially, nothing. It just a vehicle, right? A vehicle that we were looking at.
No plates?
No plates that we could identify from the video. Shortly thereafter, though, we got a pretty decent break. So the general scheme of the tip was, hey, there's this guy named Red. I think he was involved with this because he's discussed it before, and he's got a white SUV that uses it, or that he utilized in it. And since we never had put that across the news, we felt like, hey, we're onto something here. From Red, we were able to get a Redrick Batiste was the name, and kind of work a packet up on him as a potential suspect.
Given the sniper aspect, were you looking for some kind of training?
The first thing we did was immediately we ran his information with the Department of Defense, thinking maybe he had some military training or whatnot. We didn't have anything came back.
I thought that this was somebody that had evolved from a very young age into the potential criminal he is at that point. And it seemed at a very young age he was knocking down check cashing businesses and had progressed from that point.
We've now had them do this at least twice that we knew of at that point. They've killed 2 people. I mean, it was probably as escalated or as concerned as I've ever been, just because, at that point, we've got to stop this. Like, we don't just have to prove and figure out who's doing this, but we got to stop this.
Now, do you start surveillance on him? How does that work?
The biggest thing we did is we had a working relationship with the Violent Crime Task Force with the Houston Police Department North Side Tactical Unit, and it was led by Sergeant Chris Anderson.
We started hearing rumors about a sniper that was working within Houston, or a suspected sniper. And they were shooting armored car couriers, either going into the bank or the ATM machine carrying bags of money. And my supervisor was not happy with the emphasis on prostitution arrest and dope dealing. My new captain comes in, Larry Bainbridge, and he looks at the crime stats, and he looks at the amount of commercial business robberies. I mean, we're leading the nation. We're above LA, New York, Chicago, Detroit, and they're tearing us apart. And he goes, and rightfully so, what are you doing about these robberies? So he wanted me to come up with a way to run surveillance or to dismantle these robbery crews. And if you can't do it, I'll find a sergeant that can.
The violent crime was out of control, robberies, murders, the really bad stuff. You know, we had everything else as well, but I was more concerned with those that victimized people.
What was driving it at the time?
A lot of gang activity, a lot of hijackings, commercial business robberies, things like that. And I remember being in the various command staff meetings and hearing about it, and there was kind of an attitude of, what are we going to do about it? And I remember thinking, well, you've got to change your focus. You look at the old way of doing it, just reactive. You know, let's see if we can put together a photo array if we think we know who did it, and show them, well, 9 times out of 10 they're either wearing a mask, we don't have a clue who they are. There's just, that just doesn't work. And there is no DNA, there's no fingerprints. You know, they wear masks or gloves, and you know, they don't leave any type of traditional evidence. We sat down and said, okay, let's try something different. Let's completely revamp how we do things.
Fortunately for me, I had some background in proactive internal affairs, worked a lot with surveillance, vehicle tracking, poll cameras. And so we came up with a system to actually dismantle these robbery crews.
What was the term?
High-risk surveillance. Because we're doing surveillance, we don't have enough evidence to arrest these guys in a reactive investigation or even know who they are. And so, you know, here we are, we're following them into an actual robbery. How do we handle that?
This is something you created, correct?
Yes. So what the robbery crews are doing at that time, they're a lot more sophisticated than people know. My training, going back to priority of life issues and the way we conducted things in SWAT, was that, you know, we throw a perimeter around it, and once they come out, so we don't have a hostage scene, then we engage them. Unfortunately, when they're coming out, a lot of times they have guns in their hands, and if they don't comply immediately, somebody might get shot, a bad guy gets shot. And the FBI and HPD homicide came to us and go, hey, we had a spy, snitch, criminal informant come forward, gave us some information, and there may be a guy that lives in Acres Homes, my area, who may be part of this ring of robbery suspects that are using a sniper to kill couriers.
We had already said, hey, if you ever get a clue, if you ever, anything that ties them to the north side of Houston, drop everything and work on it. And that's exactly what happened.
They had a name, Redrick Batiste, dirty red, whatever. And it looked like he was on the north side somewhere. And so I drew up some tracking orders based on what the informant had said. And we went out and started looking for his Jeep. We knew he drove a Jeep. We knew he had a girlfriend on the east side. Really dicey, you know, okay, you're gonna go out into a neighborhood and undercover and try and put tracking devices under a suspect's vehicle. Very dangerous. And we can't find the Jeep anywhere. And then one of the locations we had linked to that he had bought some property, we thought it was vacant. We checked it as we're coming back in, it's about almost an eyesight of our station, and there's the Jeep. His Jeep, that's where he lived, on Tarberry in Acres Homes. Got tracking devices on it. But we want to find that white 4Runner or that white Nissan or whatever it is, and somewhere in the city of Houston. How many white SUVs are there in the city of Houston? And so I'm sitting on a mutiny with my guys because they're like, how are we going to find this vehicle? The only thing we could do was follow Redrick Batiste around in his Jeep, which is very difficult because this guy's not a typical crook. His head's always on a swivel. He's looking at his surroundings. He's looking for counter surveillance, but we have tracking devices on his Jeep. And so one night, he goes out and he goes into an apartment complex in North Harris County, drives through. I'm thinking, well, maybe he's gonna go get some marijuana, maybe he's visiting his girlfriend. But just in case, the next morning I had two of my guys go back follow that trail and see if you can find a white SUV that stands out somehow. Don't know what to tell you. Okay, Sarge. And they drove through that apartment complex. They drive in through it fast, and they're writing down license plates on every white SUV that's in there, like 7 of them. One of the license plates comes from a Toyota 4Runner, but it's supposed to be like green or blue in color. And they're like, wait a minute, we just wrote down everything that was white. So they run back in there, and this thing is backed up to some bushes, and one of my guys gets out and wants to look at the rear plate, and then he sees a perfectly cut round hole covered with something in the back, and we call it a sniper's loophole. And against all odds, or by God's grace, we found the white SUV that they had used in the last killing. Now we want to try and link that white 4Runner to Redrick Batiste, because we know he drove through the parking lot. We couldn't set up any pole cameras. We had to use cameras that we mounted in some of our UC vehicles, and we would park them and we would get views of the white SUV. So the apartment management wouldn't get suspicious about these vehicles, and we would have to move them almost every day so they wouldn't think they were abandoned. Finally, Redrick comes rolling out in the middle of the night, and we got him on video. He pulls up, gets into the 4Runner, turns it on, runs the engine, makes sure the battery's good, and then he moves it for the same reason, so the management wouldn't think it was abandoned, and parks in another spot in the parking lot. Now we have linked Redrick Batiste to the 4Runner.
We were able to identify some phone numbers that were associated with him, addresses, other vehicles that were registered to him. Once we were able to really dive into his phone records. And from that group, we initially got 2 other suspects. We've got Nelson Polk and Mark Hill. And then after that, we were able to develop John Scott and Benny Phillips as potential suspects based on their interaction with him through surveillance, but also through their phone records and who he was talking to back in March and even in August as well. At this point, I think the investigation goes to kind of 2 angles. Dave and I are working the kind of reactive side of it. We're trying to figure out, how do we prove that Batiste and these other suspects that we were able to identify through, his relationships and his phone records and everything else that we were working on at that time. How do we prove that these guys did this in August and in March? And then the other side of the investigation was, Chris Anderson was running, that was more proactive, where, hey, how do we make sure this never happens again?
And it was all hands on deck for about 3 months, which is just never, I don't think it's ever been done.
It was 24/7.
It was 24/7, truly. There was 2 days where we didn't because Redrick and some friends went to Vegas, so we knew we had a weekend off, if you will.
Really? So,
yeah.
So 2 days out of 3 months?
2 days out of 3 months, yeah.
The surveillance for the next next 2 months involves watching the white SUV. As long as the white SUV, the white 4Runner is not moving, we feel pretty safe that there's not going to be another killing.
What did you get to know about Redrick?
So watching Redrick, he was hyper alert, almost to the point of paranoia. He's the type of guy, he'd get out at the gas station, to fuel up his Jeep, and he's doing this. He looks like an off-duty cop. He's cognizant of his environment, obviously intelligent, just a different sort of bad guy. He also presented himself as some sort of savior within the Acres Home community, telling kids not to wear your pants down, and supposedly he wanted to buy black-owned businesses and get things going in the community. And eventually, Jeff kind of clued me in about who the other suspects might be. They started showing up also to run surveillance, because now what they're trying to do is they're trying to figure out times, dates, procedures for the armored car to come in there and offload monies.
We said we're gonna try to do something that's not normally done on a violent robbery crew. Is we're gonna try to get up on their phone, right? The most intrusive thing that we can do, a wiretap. So working with Rick Haynes, Heather Winter at the prosecutor's office, we came up with the plan.
I'll be honest with you, we got a little bit of pushback because typically you don't do wires on violent crimes cases, largely because they usually end up with someone commits a robbery, you arrest them, game over. It's rare to insert yourself prior to the offense taking place. We were in that unusual set of circumstances where that was what we were doing.
Obviously, we can't listen to bad guys talking about going to commit crime and not intervene. And so violent crime wires often aren't long-term or long-standing because they will say something inevitably like, we're going to commit a heinous, robbery or heinous crime, and we have to step in and intervene and take it down. We knew we were dealing with a serial killer and that it was going to require that level of interest and effort to take him down properly.
Why do you use the term serial killer?
Because it was his intention. The first part of this thing, it had two parts basically. First part, commit murder. Second part, grab the money.
It was premeditated murder with the goal of getting a large cash payout.
We got a tip leading us to Redrick Batiste, which would have been around September 1 of 2016. With that tip, the first thing we did is we dumped the cell phone towers in the area and started looking for phone numbers of people who were in contact with each other at the time that this murder and robbery took place. We would see 3 or 4 numbers would always come up at the same time, and they didn't just come up, they were contacting each other.
You could just see them talking and see the lead up to the murder where they're in that vicinity for hours at a time. I mean, they literally would sit and surveil that area. Batiste and the other co-conspirators would be there for hours just watching.
They called the armored truck, they would call it the commissary. Later on, they called it the Bentley. They would call police officers or more patrol cars, they'd call them black and whites. One of the days that we're listening to them talk, they're actually out at the bank watching an armored truck do a delivery that day.
Yo,
commissary pulling up right now.
Be light with it, because I had meant to give you today I'm going to go get some burners for them boys so we can fade off of these lines. But yeah, your phone got space in it?
Yeah, I'm finna take care of it right quick.
Put your cord on them and document everything.
Early November, Redrick Batiste changes his behavior. Now he's driving out to banks, and he's sitting and he's looking at them. And I think that over the course of that month, we probably visited every bank in the north side of Houston and even on the south side. This guy wasn't sleeping. He was moving around all the time. One night, I looked at his track and I see him going into Acres Homes, and it's right around the North Belt and Imperial Valley, all that right there. And I'm like, and I know that area pretty well. He's back behind like a strip mall there. The next morning, I drove to where my historical show where he had been parked. And I go to right where he had parked, and I'm looking, because I'm in the back parking lot, and this back frontage of these stores. Well, there's the Amity Bank, and I didn't realize it, but there's a drive-through, and there's an ATM machine right here. And then from that point on, this was going to be the location.
About this time is where the next kind of break in the case happened. He showed up in a new car. I think it was around December 3rd, we watched Batiste leave his house that day in a new car that we had never seen before. We still watching the Forerunner to make sure, hey, what's happening with that? He did at one point take it to his house, brought it to a gas station, filled it up, brought it back out. This particular day, he leaves his house in a Jeep Cherokee that we'd never seen before. Immediately we get close enough, we pull the tag on it, we find it's a rental car. It's not rented by him, it's not reported stolen, it's rented by a female that we're able to find a loose affiliation to Batiste, but nothing crazy other than why is he using this new car?
Prior to that, we had thought that the Forerunner was going to be our main vehicle, but when we saw this Jeep, we said to ourselves, well, this is probably going to end up being our vehicle because it's what we've seen in the past. So he's repeating essentially what's worked in the past.
How does this play into his plan? What's he going to do to it? And then how are we going to react to it? Because we're listening to his phone calls, he starts calling some of these other, associates, or these suspects, talking about, he's got I think he's got a new go-kart or something, but he's not sure how he's going to basically get his plan done. And at some point he's talking about a towel and pliers, and he makes a call to Granger. He calls Granger, which is like an industrial supply place. It's off of 45 North up in Houston. And he orders a 3x32 stainless steel tubing, and he only wants about 12 inches of it. And so initially that doesn't sound like it's got much criminal activity, but we're not sure how it plays in.
I saw that problem. You did? I ordered some that's stainless steel tubing, man. That's all it is. I ordered some.
We're sitting in the wire room at the FBI office in Houston, getting all this information, and we had what I like to call the moment. I don't know where it came from. I guess I'm fortunate enough that I've rented enough car vehicles, and I realize that every time you rent a car, they give you your keys, and a lot of times they give you 2 sets of keys, and they're usually held together by a piece of cable and then a small piece of stainless steel tubing that makes it difficult to break that cable apart. I hypothesize that he's gonna take this rental car that he's got the keys, he's gonna break apart his stainless steel tubing, take a key off, replace it with a dummy key that looks just like the normal key but not programmed for that car, and put it all back together. And now he's got a set of car keys to go get this vehicle whenever he's going to get it back.
So he's going to return the rental car and then go back and steal the rental car he just returned.
Yeah, because he has access to it. We again said he's too calculated. He's not going to steal it from the rental car company. He's not going to do that because he doesn't want to get caught. And so because he puts a tracking device on it, he can wait for this thing to get rented by somebody else and then go get it wherever it is, because he knows exactly where it's going to be and he's got a key to it. At that point, again, we had to figure out, all right, what are we going to do about that? So we came up with a plan that we were going to rent the car. When I say we, I mean the FBI. We're going to use an undercover officer to rent the car, and then once we get the car, we're going to let him steal it from us. Before we do that, we're gonna make sure that we're in control about everything in that car. As soon as we rent the car, the first thing I call the agent that's rented it, and I said, hey, just do me a quick check. Do both of those keys work? And he confirmed, no, only one of them works.
We asked the agent, hey, can you find a tracker on it? And sure enough, he found the tracker on it within minutes.
We brought in a vehicle unit that takes the car, and they put in cameras for us, they put in microphones, they put a tracking device and a kill switch where basically, it's a key fob that if I can have line of sight to the car, I can shut it off. We can't take it to somewhere where it's public because we're gonna do all this, we're gonna have a handful of officers doing all this work. We're able to go to Ellington Airfield, get like a secure bay, work overnight on this thing, find his tracker, put all of our stuff in there, and 6 o'clock in the morning, we took it up to Hobby Airport to a hotel and left it out there for him.
And within hours, he did exactly what we hypothesized he would, which is come, open the door with the fob so you see the lights flash, and off he drives away with it. And we have it all on camera.
There's a camera in the car. There's a microphone in the car. We're listening to his calls. We know everybody's associated with, and we've got a pretty good idea of what his next target is.
That's when we realized that that will probably be the shooting platform, and he will retire or recycle the 4Runner at that point.
He had taken the 4Runner to a makeshift auto body shop inside Acres Homes, and he met with an individual, dropped it off, and when he picked it up a couple days later, now that porthole on the back has been completely sealed off.
At 8 o'clock at night, I'm at a federal judge's house getting him to sign off on the wire that we have in that vehicle. And he signs off on it, and we turn on and we just listen.
It's very eerie. You know
Very
what
much so.
he's intending to do. This is someone about to go out and murder another innocent victim in order to make money. And just hearing, I mean, he's just casual, and he stops for breakfast tacos.
First thing he does after he steals it is he takes it and he gets the windows tinted with reflective tinting. Then what he does is he gets a piece of Mylar and he cuts it to the size of the window and kind of puts it in there so that he can roll down the window, and the Mylar piece will still be up and it'll still look like the car's windows are up, but it's just a Mylar between it.
What the heck is this Mylar for? But we realize this is the driver's side window, that this is where he's taking the shot. There's no porthole this time or sniper hole. He's using the Mylar so that he doesn't have the glass shatter and the blowback. Like, he's going to shoot through this Mylar clean across a bayou to the ATM where the armored car is reloading the money.
When we listen to him in the car, he's singing Christmas carols along with the radio station, right? He was literally, it was like Christmas came early for him.
So he was in a good mood.
He was ready to go. He was in a great mood. He called all of his team and he said, hey, we're gonna take Saturday off, we're gonna take Sunday. I gotta get a little bit of work done for the car, but then this is gonna be the week.
I believe tomorrow gonna be the day, tomorrow or Thursday, in which I ain't moving. I'm gonna get on him. I'm gonna be on the phone with you in one ear, and I'm gonna have them in another ear. So when you hear that it's a green light on this end, then when you roll out, I want you to roll the route.
When this takedown happens, we've got to basically do a low visibility operation up until the point that we're ready to go, and then we bring in the cavalry, right? But up until that point, there has to be unmarked units, nobody in uniform, right? Like we have to do all these things so we don't burn the target too early. And we had spent months of surveillance on a group of people who were pretty surveillance conscious. We knew Wednesday had to be the day because that's normally a day the armored car company would service that bank. But at this point, we call off the armored car company and let them know, you're not gonna be delivering to that bank because we're gonna do the delivery. We're gonna use the decoy car that we got. There's gonna be Houston Police Department SWAT officers inside to drive it to the ATM, and those guys are just gonna stay in the car, right? They're never gonna get out, they're never gonna get in.
So we've got a Brinks truck with HPD SWAT and North TAC, and then we have a Loomis truck with HPD SWAT and North TAC embedded into this investigation. And then Jeff is on scene with a SWAT contingent and some other investigators.
We have a big meeting. We go out there that morning, get everything set up. We've got the prosecutors from the U.S. Attorney's Office or back at the FBI office in the wire room listening to what's going on. As the day starts going through, Batiste and the rest of his crew, they start rolling out. They're talking on the phones and they're getting into place just like we watched them do Monday and Tuesday.
Billy coming your way. Okay. I stay on the phone too, fam. The Billy coming this way. The Billy coming this way. So just keep your eyes peeled for any haters coming this way.
The next morning, here we are. We're at the M&G Bank. We got cameras set up. The Forerunner with two guys is set up in the parking lot, kind of like where I thought the shot was going to be taken. Redrick Batiste is in the Jeep Cherokee across a bayou, across a fence about 100 yards away. We got the other guys doing surveillance. We're ready.
His plan is the armored truck comes, the guard is going to get out to service the ATM machine. He's going to shoot that guard from the Cherokee. Once that guard is shot and killed, the Forerunner is going to drive up. Somebody's going to jump out of the Forerunner and grab the money. Potentially, even if the doors are open on the armored truck, grab money off the truck, and then they're all going to drive away. So knowing that's his plan, we're going to try to do a simultaneously takedown of the Forerunner and the Jeep Cherokee, and then the outer perimeter guys, we're going to worry about, hey, letting mark units kind of do a traffic stop on them. That's the plan that Chris and the SWAT team came up with. At that point, I kind of hand it to Chris and the SWAT team and say, hey, we've met our triggers, for prosecution. As long as you've met your triggers for takedown, we can go ahead and initiate it.
I've got one of my guys in the Loomis armored truck, and his job, it's rifle rated, so he can't get hurt. And all he's going to do is drive the Loomis truck up to the scene by the ATM machine and just sit there. Even though they're on burner phones, Redrick is still talking on his regular phone to one of the other guys that's much further out. Redrick makes a comment like, yeah, I got to shoot between this fishnet, or something to that effect. Well, he's actually talking about the chain link fence right in front of him. And then, of course, there's a bayou, a field, and then there's the target. And at that moment, I knew that Redrick Batiste was going to be the sniper, and they were going to take the shot from across that bayou from that Jeep Cherokee. So now I got to relay that information to the SWAT commander, SWAT lieutenant. And we had this, scenario where, okay, we've got him identified, we've got what we need.
Truck goes up, but nobody ever gets out.
So he's waiting. He sees the Brink truck come in, and he can't figure it out.
I got one of my guys driving the Brinks armored truck that's going to ram the Forerunner, try and turn it over. Well, the SWAT captain said, oh, well, we have to have a SWAT officer with him. In this particular type of armored vehicle, Brinks armored truck, there's actually an escape hatch on the top that you can open. He's opened this up, so as they're coming around, he's like this. As they turn around the corner, he slips and falls. His foot hits the gear shift, and just before it hits my driver hits gonna hit the Forerunner, the Brinks truck goes into neutral, and just kind of coasts into, and doesn't hit it in an authoritative way, bounces it. In the meantime, the real threat, Redrick Batiste, is sitting in his Jeep Cherokee, looking, oh, what's going on?
Hey, what the Hey, y'all need to go.
The two individuals in there, Nelson Polk and Travius Duncan Bush, they flee the car. They run away. They ran right into a group of officers kind of waiting for them. But Batiste sees that happen because it's about a 30-second delay. As that's happening, SWAT pulls in behind Batiste and attempts to initiate arrest on him in his vehicle. He made a deliberate decision to go out shooting. We later see his actions because we're able to look at the video from inside, and you watch him realize something's not right, kind of go into panic mode. He looks over his shoulder, sees SWAT coming in, grabs his rifle, it's an AR style rifle, kick open the door and shoot at the officers as they're coming to arrest him.
You have somebody that's willing to not only kill human beings, but also engage officers.
I remember talking to the medic, trauma medic that SWAT brings along with him. I go, you think he'll make it? He goes, well, he's going to the best, down to Ben Taub or whatever, best trauma facility in the country. Put a patrol officer with him, and they transported him. And about halfway down there, Redrick Batiste, according to the officer, said, So this is what it feels like to die, and then he died.
We make the phone calls to initiate the search warrants, so multiple search warrants gets executed at the same time. We went to his house, his primary residence.
Found a duffel bag with 60 sets of handcuffs, approximately.
In a fake suicide vest in that same bag. We didn't find millions, but we definitely found thousands of dollars in different spots. Lots of credit cards and gift cards that weren't activated yet, so had been stolen from somewhere. So evidence of fraud and other criminal activities. Now we have 5 suspects that we've got to arrest, process, and attempt to interview every one of them. So like we know we just signed up for, again, 24 hours of work to get the evidence that we're going to eventually need to see this thing through to a full prosecution. We were able to find videos of the armored truck servicing that Amegy Bank ATM when they were out doing surveillance. They would actually take videos of it and then send to each other. We found hundreds of text messages to each other about the plan, some coded, some not. We were never able to get ballistics that tied that gun to the bullets, the rounds that killed Mr. Moore back in March and Mr. Guzman in August. Going through the phone, we were able to identify that after each of these crimes, Batiste would switch out the barrels. And so he had the same gun, but he would just change out his barrel. Turned out he had basically his own personal gunsmith, right? Just somebody that kind of does it on the side. They didn't have a shop or anything.
Family members of Melvin Moore finally feeling closure tonight after nearly a year of nothing.
I cried every night. I did, because he was my baby.
But tonight, FBI agents believe they have the men who did it and who they say also killed another courier in August. Since March, they have been following a robbery crew led by this man, Redrick Batiste.
All 4 suspects came to court this morning with their lawyers. Officers arrested these 4: Mark Hill, Travis Duncan Bush, Nelson Polk, and John Edward Scott.
Listening to that wire that morning from the inside of that vehicle where he intended to take the shot was, just eerie and scary. And to hear the kind of inner workings or inner thoughts of a murderer. And but it was critical, those 4 hours that we got of that wire.
Batiste's dad, all the evidence you had, it's a little surprising they went to trial.
They had no choice. We were going to see them die in prison come hell or high water. So
I mean, there was really they had no incentive to plead guilty,
right,
because it's a life sentence. And so roll the dice, see and they did try to make a mockery of it.
Did they actually represent themselves during a trial?
One did.
One did.
And
Who?
for a period. Mark Hill and Nelson Polk were the ones that insisted, and they, again, uncle and nephew. So they kind of held the same ground. Judge Hittner, and at one point moved them out of the courtroom, and they had to watch via video or remotely or via video conference because there were so many outbursts.
I tell people about this case and everything that happened, and they don't believe me. Because you're making that up.
I didn't know at the time, but even despite the court security officers, the marshals, one of the defendants was able to get a razor blade in his because they're allowed to carry their legal paperwork. Right. And was able to hide and stash a razor blade. It was a big deal at sentencing. They were able to bring in a deadly weapon into open federal court and sit, 5 feet from us.
And attempt to do it a second time.
So their family brings them clothes so that they're not in their prison uniform. And we found out, the court security officers, luckily during their screening, caught it. It was a razor blade hidden in the bottom of a shoe that was intended to go to Nelson Polk for his trial clothing.
He had no allegiance to the other members of the crew, and I think that was as intended by Batiste.
He was the disposable member of the crew.
It was a pleasure to try that case.
And convict them.
I was watching the news, a couple weeks later. I think it was, December, Christmas time of 2016, and I just happened to see a cold case that was highlighted, and it was about an individual who, his name was Carol Oliver. He owned a McDonald's off of Lockwood and I-10.
Family, friends, neighbors, and many others are mourning the death of 68-year-old Carol Oliver, a well-loved businessman with strong ties to Harris and Fort Bend counties. Oliver was gunned down in the parking lot of one of the McDonald's restaurants he owned, this one in East Houston at the East Freeway in Lockwood. He was approached by at least 2 gunmen in a white SUV as he was leaving Monday morning to deposit money.
They tried to take the money satchel from him. They were not able to do that. Mr. Oliver was armed. He drew his weapon in self-defense.
In addition to the numerous McDonald's restaurants he owned, Mr. Oliver was the chaplain for the Fort Bend County Precinct 2 Constable's Office.
What piqued my interest is the vehicle that they were looking for that was utilized in this murder was a white Toyota 4Runner. I just said, Batiste is calculated. He keeps these vehicles long enough. It's got to be him. When we processed that Toyota 4Runner, after the arrest in December, one of the things that our evidence team found was bullet rounds. They were able to pull them out of the inside of the 4Runner. And we didn't know why at that point. We had no clue. When we were able to work with the detective that was working the Oliver case, we compared those rounds that we found to the rounds that ultimately killed Mr. Oliver. And when we got the results back, 6 months later, it was a match.
I would have loved to have Redrick Batiste alive, because maybe we would have been able to debrief him, find out more how he thought, and we may have been able to clear some other killings and murders. After I retired, my guys went to the FBI evidence room, pulled the Redrick's gun out, which had been stolen in a car burglary in Tomball. They recreated the rifle with the exact same parts, and then on my retirement, they gave it to me.
Why did you write the book?
To memorialize the story of Redrick Batiste and the operation. I think, and this is why I would like to know, I think Redrick Batiste liked the power. I think he liked to kill people. I think it satisfied him at some level.
For every 1,000 criminals we come across or interview, there might be one Redrick Batiste.
That's why we do the job, right? Like it's not so we can put people in jail for a long time. It's to get justice for victims who sometimes don't have a voice.